Folks, today we've got the Brute Losider side toolboxes for our Super Duty Ford. I was needing some tool solution. This is what I settled on. This is not a sponsored video. We paid full retail price for these.
Enough talking, Dad. Let's get started.
Our intent was to show you the installation of these boxes and kind of give you an overall review. That didn't quite work out like we wanted. So what we're going to do is we're going to show the install of this one box. Then we're going to show the organization, how we plan to put stuff in it. Then we're going to explain to you why we have to send them back. And lastly, we're going to ask for your advice on a new solution. The installation looks pretty simple to me. In fact, there's only 7 steps written in the instructions. This is the foot that goes below the toolbox. This bolts right to the toolbox. This goes to the floor. All we do is we measure from the top side of the bed rail and subtract 11 inches from it, and then that's how tall we make this. We can go ahead and tighten it. We'll turn the toolbox over, put these on. Oh, missed one thing. We got a little piece of foam here that we put down on the truck bed rail to keep from scratching it. Set the toolbox on there. We will have to drill holes, but only through the box. We won't drill holes in the truck. And then we have these little J hooks, little hook right under the side of the truck body, and that's all there is to it.
There's actually only 6 steps, and
what?
On the 7th step, it's just like God did on the 7th day. You just rest.
You rested. Okay, that works for me.
Get a cheeseburger, maybe.
Katrina, why don't you take this foam? For the first time, you're taller than I am.
Not for the first time. I usually try to find spaces in which I can stand above you.
But anyway, put this foam right along here. I would say about like a ½ inch in or something. Maybe, yeah, maybe like that far in.
Where do I start? All the way back at the back, or?
Right here, because that's where the front of the box will go. And once you get that stuck good, you can start to pull this out from under and go all in one trip. I'm not going to watch you. I'm going to allow you to
mess it up on my own.
Mess it up on your own.
Not only can you install your cargo pants for your truck, it comes with fashionable head wrap choices.
Cargo pants?
Yeah, they're cargo pants for your truck. You know, like when you have cargo pants, you can carry everything you've ever owned in your pants. These things are so you can carry everything you ever owned in your truck.
Right along the back legs, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Catrill, this reminds me of putting the tonneau cover on the Ridgeline several years ago.
It does remind me of that. You know what the difference was in that case?
What?
The back of the truck was kind of cleaner.
I don't know. You've grown picky in your old age. Cargo pants, eh?
Does it not look like cargo pants?
I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. One of my concerns was that it would be too high for our gooseneck. And I think it looks, I think they said 5 inches that it goes over the side of the truck. But, and I wanted to find one that was long enough to cover the entire bed. This one might be good though, because I still need to reach in here to get to the 7-pin connector for the gooseneck.
Right.
So this will probably be about right.
And this drawer here just pulls out. So.
Oops. That's not going to work, is it?
No, that's not going to work at all.
So we'll have to have this away a little bit. That might actually look better along the truck anyway, because it looks like the truck, otherwise it wouldn't sit straight on the truck bed. That's interesting though. So this drawer pulls all the way out. I think that'll probably still work with the gooseneck, Christy.
Okay.
But it's going to be pretty tall for you, still. It's not on rollers. That's one thing I notice now. For as much money as I spent, I kind of wish it would have had some rollers. Maybe it needs some grease somewhere in here.
Does not like being pushed in and out.
No. I'm not sure what I'll put in here. We talked about maybe shovels, but I'm not sure if the shovels will be able to fit in the compartment. There are a few dividers here that can go in there. Now, I don't know if that felt needs to be removed. If you put the divider in, probably, doesn't it?
Well, it might help the divider stay.
Oh, it works, yeah. So that's how it does, and it keeps them from vibrating. So yeah, that works pretty good. So that's how the dividers work. We have the same thing for the top too. Be ready for the squeal, here it comes. And you have to push this button in to get it to close the rest of the way. See how this goes down?
Yeah.
It does not, if it were angled there, it might go in automatically, but you have to push it down. That pin sticks up, it's a square pin.
Yeah.
If it were tapered here, like this, you might be able to shove it in and it would spring itself down. As it is, I have to push that down to close it. And I've already, even on closing it twice, I've already scuffed the rubber there by shoving it in without pushing it down. Really, there's only one more major step, and that is drilling those holes for the J-bolts or U-bolts. There's a little bit of guesstimate here going on where I'm going to drill this hole. I want to get it as close as I can to the box, the drawer box. Okay. Okay, I'm going to tip this backwards a little bit. Can't get the doggone door open. So before I get into any details about why we're going to have to send them back, I do want to show you what our plan was and why we had chosen these boxes. This top section here is very thin. It's probably 2 inches on the sides here. There's a couple of side beams here that kind of come level with this part. And then there's a little bit of a gap that's maybe an inch or an inch and a half higher that allows you to get a little bit taller stuff in here. So in order to get all of our cargo buckles in here, we had to put the handles to the middle. But you can see what we had in mind. They provide these little dividers, okay, that allow you to separate your stuff. We had one extra in this case. And this was our plan for this side. For the other side, we had planned to put some hand tools up here, again with the dividers. We chose this style because our gooseneck, if we went any taller than this, our gooseneck trailer would interfere with it, so we wouldn't be able to turn. This is only 5 inches, as I mentioned earlier. The other reason that we chose these Losiders is the truck bed is very tall. I'm 6 foot tall and it comes up, you know, right here on me to be able to see in. We do have a running board back here, so Christy can hop up there and be able to see in and reach at least this end. We felt like that reaching all the way to the bottom of a traditional Losider toolbox would be difficult for Christy and probably difficult for me as well. So we like this idea of a shallow top box and then utilize the rest of the space with the drawer underneath. We found no other vendor that had this solution. Let's take a look at what we've got in that drawer. The bungees here and tarp strap will give you a little hint at some of the difficulties we've had and why we're going to have to return them. But before we get into that, let's open it up and take a look inside. My idea is to try to keep the least used items way back here in the back. They're a little bit hard to reach. So I've got the gooseneck ball, and there's a couple of other attachments where you attach the safety chains there. We had a little bag for those, and so I've stuffed that way back here. I don't really need to get to it very often. Got jumper cables. I've got my heavy binders here. These might be a little bit too heavy for this box. I've got just a variety of oil and a lot of spray cans that I use. And back here at the back, frequently used items, gloves, our little safety vests, and here's the transition. I'll take my duct tape off so that you can get a better view of the problem. Now, as you saw earlier in the episode, we were able to open and close this drawer, and this is all of the latch mechanism. it was not broken at that time. In fact, I actually broke it very late in my attempted work on it, long after I called customer support. But one of the challenges we had here was very weak welds. Weak enough that it allowed this whole latch mechanism to flex. Now, not that much, but it allowed it to flex. As I mentioned earlier, this latch is square on this side. So when the drawer is closed, it pushes firmly against the strike plate. So I did that twice without knowing that I had to push the button in, and that bent this whole piece like this a little bit. Now I'm exaggerating it, but it bent it to this angle. Again, it wasn't 2 inches bent, but I'm trying to show you what the illustration is. After it bent a little bit, and I'm really talking like 1/4 of an inch, after it bent, then when I closed the drawer, the latch wouldn't catch the strike plate, right? So I could pry that back out like this, and I could get that latch to catch the strike plate. But then if I ever pushed it in again with forgetting to put the button down, it was just not going to work in a long-term solution. The next problem that I faced, this piece right here, which the manufacturer called a tang. Okay, so there's the push button. He called this piece the tang. And this piece right here is what makes the latch go down. It only catches, these two pieces only overlap. You can actually see the wear here. 1/4 inch max. A lot of times it was down to 1/8 of an inch here. It's all the overlap there was here. So this tang, as he called it, I've never heard that term before. If you've heard the term tang for something other than the drink the astronauts drank, let us know in the comments section. But you push this in, that tang pushed this, and that's what lowered it. So one of the problems, and a major problem, so major that I could not get the drawer open on the other drawer, I'll share that a little bit in a minute, was that the tang can get behind this piece here, and the push button then becomes totally ineffective. The other challenge is that pushing this button in all the way did not push this down far enough. And you can actually see that in the earlier video when Catrilla and I were working the door. It wasn't getting pushed down very far at all. So if it gets only pushed down this far, it might catch on the strike plate even when you've got the door all the way down. I tried to resolve that by putting just a little bit of bend in this piece, bending it out just a little bit so it would push a little further, and that worked. But then again, that kind of exaggerated that not having enough overlap on these pieces. The other problem is that this bolt right here is used as a stopper. So when you push the button in, that bolt is supposed to hit right on the head of this bolt. So this bolt would hit right there. This bolt would hit right there and keep you from pushing the button in so far that it gets stuck. Well, on this particular instance, the hole for this bolt was put in the wrong spot. So it totally missed the head of that bolt. So it would even get off to the side, and it would encourage the plunger here to get stuck, right? It would get stuck right on the sides of those threads. So 5 complaints here. Welds are too weak. They didn't get close enough to the bottom. This plunger or latch needs to be tapered so that it can go in and snap on the other side. The button doesn't depress the plunger enough, and the tang and mechanism here doesn't overlap enough. This pushes pretty hard, by the way, but I do have some heavy items in here, so I kind of understand. I did put some silicone on the sides of these to stop the squeaking. I do wish it had rollers. This is the passenger side box, and this is when we got to the most severe challenge. When we received this box, I could not get the door open. You actually might have heard that in a video already before during the installation section. The camera wasn't pointed at it, but you heard me say, I can't even get this drawer open. Well, I couldn't. It didn't matter how hard I pushed. I tried prying under here. I put some pry bars, tried several different approaches. I finally realized that the button here was not pushing the mechanism. Thankfully, I had the other drawer that I could kind of figure out how it worked and could try to go by feel and try to figure out what was wrong with this one. There was no way I was going to get it open. I called the manufacturer and we discussed this for quite some time, and I finally said, well, rather than send these back right now, I mean, shipping is probably half of the cost of these. So I was really kind of reluctant to try to ship them back to get new units because I didn't want to cost them that money. And, you know, as you know, shipping's expensive. So I said, I'm willing to take the effort to go ahead and cut these bolts off. So you see these two carriage head bolts right here. That is what holds the strike plate on the inside. It's an angle piece of aluminum under there. And so I ground these heads off almost all the way down, and then I drilled right through the middle of them such that I could get those bolts off, and the strike plate fell out, right? Once the strike plate was out, it took me a little bit of work still, but I was able to get this open. I had to get this drawer open before I installed it because a lot of the hardware required for install was in this drawer. So that's why it held us up during the install on that very first day. If the hardware hadn't been in here, I might have just went ahead and installed it on the truck and worried about the drawer opening later. But that's not how it worked out. So, given that I'd already ground these bolt heads off, I actually tried the tapering of this plunger on here. So I ground this off, and by the way, that works fabulously. I put the strike plate back on, and you'll notice that I'm able to close this now without pushing the plunger. And you can actually hear it. If you listen close, you can hear that it goes in nicely. So I notified the manufacturer about this potential design change, and they seemed responsive. That's most of the issues we found with the latch mechanism. It's clear to me this is a relatively new product. I doubt they've sold very many of these because it just doesn't work reliably. But I did find one more issue, and this one was kind of the last straw for me. Let's take a look. This is the leg we talked about in the install portion. This bolts right to the bottom of the toolbox. This is the bottom of the box we're seeing right here. These two brass nuts have been inserted by the manufacturer to be able to bolt the leg. So if I put a bolt in the bottom one, you can see that the hole is off by an inch. So these brass nuts were too close, didn't even come close to matching up here. If that were the only issue, it really wouldn't be that big of a deal. I could just drill out another hole here in this leg and make that work. I probably wouldn't have even called them, although I'd have been a little uneasy about the quality, but I probably wouldn't have even called about that. But combined with all the other issues, especially when I had a drawer that would not latch, another drawer that I was scared to close, I just felt like I had to get in touch with the manufacturer and see if I could get some help. So given this list of issues, we called the manufacturer. We called probably 3:45 in the afternoon on one day. The customer service rep that we got said that anybody who knew what they were doing leaves at 2:30 every day. So they can't help anybody after 2:30 in Eastern time to be able to resolve issues, so that they would call me back the next morning. Well, they didn't call me back next morning, but this customer service rep did email me and say that she was looking into it. No problem. We waited around most of that day, and nothing seemed to be happening. I did email them that morning and explain to them that we will publish videos on YouTube. We do reviews for a living, and that we would try to give them every possible chance to make this right, but that they probably should take this seriously. I don't know if they perceived that as a threat. We certainly didn't intend it as a threat. We more just intended it to provide them a little more excuse to try to help us get our issues resolved. Day 1, 3:45, we make a call. Day 2, we don't get any calls back. We make another call or two. Day 3, if I'm remembering correct, we finally spoke to a quality assurance representative from the company who had reviewed these boxes before they went out. I explained the entire list of issues to him over the phone, just as I've explained to you here. And he responded, he says, I think you're going to be happy to hear that we've redesigned these boxes. So I think we've addressed most of these issues. And he proceeded to say what he had addressed. Well, my first question was, well, when did this redesign happen? Because we ordered these in mid-December, actually early December, and we waited over a month to get these boxes. So if they had had a redesign, which he explained was several months ago, why did we have to wait a month? So it seemed to me like that these boxes must have been built recently. Now, fast forwarding a little bit, after another day or so, they finally told me that one of the boxes has the redesign, maybe, and the other box likely does not have the redesign. Well, I don't see very much difference between the two. That's a little bit difficult for me to digest, but nevertheless, that's the story that they told us. At this point, we realized, I think all sides realized, that we were going to have to get some replacement boxes. And everything seemed to be still going okay. We understand that there are manufacturing issues, and as long as a customer service department is willing to work with us, and that's fine. Where things began to go wrong for me was when they wanted us to wait a month again for those new boxes. A couple of days later, we got a call from a different individual at the company, and her message to us was that we needed to ship the boxes back, and that the president of the company had indicated that he no longer wanted to do business with us. We were a bit shocked at this because our understanding was that they were going to be sending us new boxes, but you know, when I look back, we were never promised replacement boxes. I guess we just sort of assumed that's where we were getting to, was replacement boxes. They never really promised us that. But anyway, so they said we needed to send the boxes back. We began to ask several questions. We were kind of stunned because we knew we had been professional, and while we had been firm, especially pushing back a little bit on the story of this redesign, which just didn't quite add up, we knew we had not been unprofessional. We knew we had been on the up and up there. So we asked some more questions, and it was real fuzzy about whether we were going to get a refund. Maybe this was just a communication problem, but we weren't clear that we were going to get the refund. Remember, we buy these through dealers. We bought through another dealer that is not involved in this at all. I'm not going to mention their name because they've been entirely wonderful through this whole thing. When we had trouble, we went straight to the manufacturer, Unique Truck Accessories, out of Sturgis, Michigan, I think. So at this point, we are going to send the boxes back. They've set up a reshipment. So that we'll send them back. And we, as of the time of this shooting, don't have our refund yet. I'll let you know right here in a lower third if we have received the refund by the time this video gets posted. We know of no other boxes that are made like this. We like that they were low profile. We like that they have the drawer that comes out of the back. We think that would make it much easier for us to use these. It's an American company. They're made in Michigan. There were design issues. There were manufacturing defects. Each of those could be fixed and resolved as long as the company is committed to quality and committed to the customer. At this point, our confidence is shaken in both. We did not experience a commitment to quality. When we relay the issues that we had, and when we relay the resolution of we just want a new set of boxes, they no longer want to do business. So both a commitment to quality and a commitment to the customer we are not seeing. Now, this is my time where I might ask you, a lot of you guys are much more knowledgeable and follow truck advancements more than I do. What can we use? We're not interested in a gull wing box that goes across. Sorry. We can't reach in there. It certainly goes down deep and it goes all the way across the middle. There's no way we can reach in there with such a tall truck. We need something along the side. We need it easy to get to, and we need something quality. These boxes cost us a lot of money, or at least a lot of money to us. We paid over $800 per box for these boxes, including shipping. And that was by far the cheapest deal we saw for this brand. Most of them were well over $1,000 for these same two boxes shipped. So let us know in the comments section if you've got a better idea. We've probably gone to too much detail here. I never know how much detail to go to. If I don't explain some of this item in a video, commenters will be saying that, well, you should have considered this, well, you should have tried that, well, you should have tried this other thing. If we do share every detail, we risk belaboring it or becoming boring, or so I don't really know how to handle this. I can say that, to my knowledge, this is the first negative review that we've ever posted on YouTube. But I cannot, in good faith, recommend Unique Truck Accessories as a vendor. And until they get some of these issues resolved, I cannot recommend the LosiderSafe box. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim. This was one of Tom's complaints, by the way, was he was afraid you'd drag stuff over the edge and scuff your truck. Folks, today we've got the Brute Losider side tow boxes from Unique Truck Accessories. It's not a sponsored video, but we're going to install them here and show you all about them.
Let's get started.
Too late. You got to pop up and basically interrupt me, right?